Today's show is all about the latest on Aaron Rodgers as a decision appears to be coming very, very soon. So with that in mind, I want you guys to get your crystal balls and predict where you think he will play in 2022. If you think it's going to be the Broncos, type DEN. If it's going to be the Packers, type GB. Or maybe it's one of the other two teams reportedly interested or he's interested in being traded to. Drop an O for other to start today's show. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. Coming up on today's show, we're going to look at the latest Aaron Rodgers buzz because over the weekend, we got some more leakage from his camp on when we can expect to know a decision. I'm going to give you my takes on this, and I'm going to get rather hot on it, and then we'll also look at some shout-outs in today's show as I put out a little call to action earlier late last week to comment a random player, and now it's time to give back to you, the people. But first, Michael Silver does a good job of keeping up with the Packers, said this. This was yesterday, by the way. Today, Packers left tackle David Bakhtiari is getting married in California. Aaron Rodgers is set to officiate it. Matt LaFleur will be there. Rodgers is likely to tell the Packers what he wants to do by Tuesday afternoon. Timing is kind of wild. Absolutely. It's Sunday right now, so depending on when you're watching this, that means we have to wait another 2 days until we absolutely know where Rodgers will end up playing in 2022. Reports came out that if a trade does happen, these are the three places he would want to go. The Broncos, the Titans, and the Steelers. According to Pro Football Talk, those are the three final destinations. It's very unlikely Green Bay deals him to any team in the NFC. They don't want to play him in San Francisco. Now, the Broncos do play the Packers, by the way, in 2023 at Mile High. So that would be pretty fun, but I do wish it was kind of in Lambeau so he could go back home. But anyway, those are the three reported destinations if a trade were to happen. I want to go back in time a little bit and revisit this old quote from Aaron Rodgers. Right after he won his fourth MVP, he said, "I'll make a decision in due time, and not in a ton of time. I'll give the team plenty of time to do what they've got to do. I'm not going to keep a lot of people waiting." Guys, that was on February 10th. Almost a month ago, he said, "I'll make it in not a ton of time. Plenty of time for the Packers to do what they want to do. I won't keep people waiting." Well, he's waited about a month, and he's almost out of time at this point for the Packers to make a decision if they have to know whether or not Rodgers is going to be their quarterback in 2022. So it kind of makes me wonder, is Rodgers punishing Green Bay? We all knew there was the fallout last offseason. He was upset with the Jordan Love pick. He was upset with a lot of the decisions the front office in Green Bay made to some of the star veteran players as the way they kind of treated them on their way out. So is this his sick way of getting even? The franchise tag deadline, by the way, is March 8th. And that's important to note because Rodgers and Adams, his star wideout, his best buddy, the guy he said has never been a better football player, he has played alongside him, that has to be a decision the Packers make soon if they're going to tag Davante Adams. Because in order to tag him, they have to know what Rodgers is going to do. I think that's the only way, with all the information in front of them, they can make the best decision on what to do. So before we get more into this, and I'll give you my takes on it, let me pose this question to you. Do you want Denver to go out and trade for Rodgers? Like, plain and simple. Are you in on getting number 12 from Green Bay, or would you rather roll with Locke and keep all the picks? I know this camp is a little split on this, so let me hear what you have to say. Drop a Y for yes or an N for no, and feel free to rant all you want. I'll go back and forth with you guys in the comment section below. Here's my theory, though. My theory is that Rodgers put out this fake idea last month that he was going to make a decision soon, and that he almost dropped hints of him likely to stay in Green Bay. And why was that? Because he wants to get back at the organization that hasn't done much for him in his career in Green Bay. Meaning they have never been big spenders in the free agency market. They've never gone out inside big name wide receivers for him. In fact, just when they thought his career would be over, what do? They draft Jordan Love, his replacement. And then on top of that, you think about all the other key veteran players that he ranted about last year when he spoke finally after taking like a siesta, a month-long break in Hawaii with his girlfriend and what's the actor's name? Miles Teller, great actor by the way. Teller gets a cameo today. But my theory is that you parlay his frustration with the Packers front office, and then you look at the media that dragged him through the burning coals this year, all because of COVID, and we're not going to open that can of worms. And so I wonder if Rodgers is playing a sick, cruel game on the media that torched him and the Packers front office that has done him not a lot of favors in his career in Green Bay by saying, I'll make a decision soon, when actually he's going to wait until right up to when the franchise tag deadline has to be made, and then says, actually, I want to trade. Well, now it's a little too late for the Packers to tag and trade Davante Adams, so they likely have to let him walk in free agency because they get nothing for him. Or they tag him, they have a disgruntled wide receiver who just lost his star quarterback, and they don't have anything for him, and they don't have a star quarterback to throw him the football. And so the Packers are left with a $20 million expensive wide receiver, whatever the franchise tag is for wide receivers in 2022, and no Aaron Rodgers. I think that'd be a sick, cruel way for Rodgers to get revenge on Green Bay. Welcome and thank you for listening to my TED Talk. But if Rodgers does get traded, you're going to want a video. Because let's be honest, football fans, sports fans, whatever it may be, whenever our team does something, we want to consume and like Kobayashi, eat up every bit of material and content out on that trade. And so that's why I think you're going to want to subscribe to get a Broncos breakdown on that trade. Speaking of a trade, I cooked up a little mock trade just to give you guys an idea and my latest thoughts on what it could look like. I have the Broncos getting Aaron Rodgers, the Packers get the Broncos number 9 overall pick in this upcoming draft, and Denver's second round pick. And then they get Denver's 2023 first and second rounder, so that's 2 firsts, one of them's top 10, and 2 seconds, a starting guard in Quinn Miners, and Jerry Jeudy. Maybe the toughest piece to actually part with from all those assets right there because of the potential he has as a wide receiver. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to win a Super Bowl because of Jerry Jeudy without a quarterback there. You could win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and no Jeudy. So now it's time for you guys to be George Payton, put your GM hats on, and let me know if you would do this trade. Type A for accept or D for decline. Sound off in the comment section below. I personally think Denver is the Super Bowl favorite with Aaron Rodgers. This is a team that I know didn't make the playoffs last year, but still, so much talent with a broken down defense that was missing their 4 starting linebackers. Really think about it. For the chunk of the season, no Von Miller, no Bradley Chubb, no Josie Jewell, no A.J. Johnson. 4 starting linebackers disappeared. A bit of a we'll call it a carousel quarterback between Bridgewater and Locke, and below average quarterback play across the board, and they still put together 7 wins. Loaded roster here that is truly just one quarterback away. I would pick this Broncos roster with Aaron Rodgers over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs got exposed last year, guys. And I know I may be old takes exposed in a year from now if the Chiefs somehow go out to win another Super Bowl, but we found that this Chiefs team is not supernatural. It's not superhuman. They can be beaten, and they can be beaten with great quarterback play, or if you just make them, go for it at the 2-yard line right before the half instead of kicking 3 points. But I'm not a coach or anything. All right, before we move on to the second segment of today's show, which is all about Drew Lock and if he's plan B, I want to get some quick shout-outs here. I asked you guys last week, as a Thursday, Friday, to comment a random Broncos player and giving you guys some shout-outs. So Nate Williams says Michael Brooks, a good linebacker, an oldie but a goodie. Spencer Larson coming in from Shiloh Heesh, was a fullback from 10 years ago, I think. Eric Turvin, a Javon Walker, another good pick right there. Walker was a defensive end, if I remember correctly. Wide receiver came over. That's right. Wide receiver came over from Green Bay, and maybe he could give some tips to Rodgers on where he could live in Denver. Just an idea. Ed McCaffrey, I think, is best known as just being the father of Christian McCaffrey at this point, but people forget Broncos stud. Michael Kerr with No Sean Moreno. Anytime I see No Sean Moreno on this list, I've done this call like 1 to 2 times now, 2-3 times. I just think of him crying because he loves football that much. He was so jacked up to play. Richie Baez with John Mobley. Mobley, I think, best remembered, at least in my opinion, is the guy who deflected Favre's pass on 4th down in the Super Bowl to seal the win. Brock Dolorshell with Simon Fletcher. That's a great one right there. Recently brought into the Broncos Ring of Fame. It was 5-6 years ago, so good pick right there by Brock. D-Grass 7 with Gaston Green. Gaston Green, an old one. I love when this happens because it turns into can you stump me with how old you can go with players. Ambient Head with also No Sean Moreno. Flipping on Texas, Bubby Brister, backup quarterback for John Elway for a little bit there. But then he got passed up for Greasy, so he's probably a little upset about that. Dale Fleming, Craig Moron, another old quarterback right there. And then we have, tough name to pronounce, Dioncio Quineres. I hope I got that right. With Steve Atwater, legend safety for the Broncos, Hall of Famer. Move on to last four here. DBA with Al Wilson, my favorite of the bunch. So shout out to you, DBA. Went to Tennessee, my alma mater, and was just a stud linebacker. Loved Al Wilson. He also had like that neck guard, right? That's how you knew they were badasses. D the GOAT with maybe the second best random one here. Eddie Royal, probably the most underappreciated guy of his time, like just wide receivers. He was just a glue guy. Kind of reminds me of Tim Patrick, actually. Not play style, but just the name, and doesn't get enough recognition for what he does. Bill Bell L with CJ Anderson. Good one right there, Bill. And then the new guy with Justin Forsett. I just always think of him as that great season he had with the Ravens, but people forget he did play for the Broncos before he played for the Ravens and had that breakout season. It was before or after. Well, whatever. So appreciate all of you guys that shouted out those players. And if you guys want to rep some Broncos gear for St. Patrick's Day, do it in style when you go to chatsports.com/BroncosGreen. March 17th, you don't want to get pinched for not wearing green, and you'd love to get an Irish flu on March 18th. So do it wearing some awesome Broncos gear. They've got a ton of stuff on sale, so check it out. I'll have that information in the comments and the description of today's video. Moving on to the Broncos offseason plan and what it could look like plan B-wise if they don't get Aaron Rodgers. Because the offseason plan, at least for me, it all hinges on Aaron Rodgers. Because let's say Denver doesn't land Rodgers and he wants to stay in Green Bay or he wants to go to one of those other teams, for example. Well, then they've got to take a hard look at what's plan B. And I think to me it's Russell Wilson. And if Russell Wilson's not attainable, which it looks like he's not. Let's just face facts. I wish he was. He'd be my number one guy, actually. But this is a mix of, in my opinion, and Broncos' opinion. Then you go Tier 2 veteran quarterbacks, which I mentioned on the show a couple days ago. You can check that out in the comments. A mailbag video I did, and that would include Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins. Or you look at free agency, or Drew Lock, or last is the NFL draft, because I just don't like this NFL draft class. Drew Lock, though, he puts a pretzel on my head. It's like Ricky Bobby style, right? I've got a soft serve pretzel on my head, because anytime I say anything about Drew Lock that is just not making out with the guy, I get kind of dragged through the mud about it. I'm not a Drew Lock hater, and I'm not a Drew Lock defender. I'm going to go out and say I'm a Drew Lock realist, right? I haven't seen enough out of Drew Lock for me to sit here and go, he is a future quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He's a long-term guy. He is a playoff winning quarterback. So you look at Drew Lock's career stats here. And we got 2021 where he made 6 appearances, just a couple starts at the end of the season, but spelled Teddy Bridgewater when he got banged up, like in that Chargers and Ravens game. 787 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I don't want to read too much into that because anytime you're a backup quarterback coming in cold or last 2 weeks of the season when you're already eliminated from playoff contention, how much do you really want to grab from that? But 2020, when he made 13 appearances, the most of his career so far in one season, 16 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. The accuracy. It's the inability to go through his progressions that really bothers me. Okay, and we saw that multiple times even this year. I go back to that Chargers game. You remember when he came in, it was at home, came in for Teddy Bridgewater for just like a series, just a little bit of time, and pretty quickly threw an interception. Why? Because he couldn't really master an RPO. Right? He couldn't read defenses well enough to know what to do. If my first look isn't there, here's my next look, and then I'll go down to my check down. It's just he's entering year 4, and I'm seeing mistakes from him in year 3 that you would like to see worked out midway through his rookie season. And he only played 5 games in his rookie year. And that's also a big issue. Lack of availability, which is the best ability. Some of it's on him. Some of it's on COVID, which is not on him. Some of it's because he got benched, and maybe that's going to rectify or change with the new coaching regime. But if Drew Lock ends up being the starting quarterback for the Broncos, what would your confidence level be? I want you guys to scale it from 1 to 100. You can go a variety of directions with this one. Personally, and this is not a joke, but it kind of is, I'm at a 69. And not for the nice number, but because I'm just shy of a 70, which I think would be a little average. I think we've seen a lot of fun things out of Drew Lock. He's got a cannon of an arm. He can sling it. He can make games fun. He can make games interesting. But if Drew Lock's the starting quarterback with how talented this roster is, I don't see this team winning playoff games. I just don't. If you disagree with me, that's all right. No censorship here at the Broncos Breakdown. I can take it. I got thickish skin. But let me know what you think down below, and we'll catch you guys later here on the Broncos Breakdown.